Silence filled the Hart living room. The envelope still lay open on the coffee table. Only one sentence. The truth is buried in house number 9. Daniel stared at the paper as though it had come from another lifetime. Evelyn had never seen that expression before. It wasn't fear. It was recognition, as though someone had opened a door he had spent years trying to keep locked. She spoke softly. "What happened at house number 9? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window and looked out at Asteria Lane. Children were riding bicycles. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. A couple laughed as they carried groceries inside. The neighborhood looked exactly as it always had. Safe, ordinary, peaceful. But Daniel knew better. Finally, he spoke. "When we bought this house, I promised myself I'd never speak about it again." Evelyn waited. "You deserve the truth." He sat across from her. 15 years ago, long before they met, Daniel had just finished university. He wasn't married. He had no career, only a temporary job working for a property management company. His responsibility was simple: inspect abandoned homes before they were renovated. Most of the houses were empty. Some had been neglected for years. Others had been damaged by storms. Then one morning, his supervisor handed him a single address: 9 Asteria Lane. It was different from the others. Daniel's voice had become distant. "As soon as I saw the file, I knew something wasn't right." The house had changed owners 3 times in less than 2 years. Each family moved away within months. No explanation, no complaints, just gone. His supervisor laughed, probably haunted. Everyone in the office smiled, except the old receptionist. She looked directly at Daniel, then quietly said, "Some houses remember." Daniel had laughed too. He didn't believe in ghost stories, not then. The first time he visited the property, the street was empty. Rain clouds covered the sky. The mailbox leaned sideways. Weeds climbed the front porch. Every window was covered from the inside, as though someone didn't want the sunlight to enter. He unlocked the front door. The hinges groaned. The air smelled of dust, old wood, and something else, something difficult to describe. The house was silent, too silent. Even the sound of the rain outside seemed to disappear once he stepped inside. He checked each room, living room, kitchen, dining room. Everything appeared abandoned, furniture covered with white sheets, family photographs removed from the walls. No personal belongings, almost as if someone had left in a hurry. Then he reached the staircase. For reasons he couldn't explain, he hesitated. A strange feeling settled over him. Not danger, not exactly, more like the uncomfortable certainty that he wasn't alone. A loud bang echoed upstairs. Daniel froze. He looked toward the ceiling. Nothing. Then another sound, a slow creak, like footsteps crossing an old wooden floor. He called out, "Hello?" No answer, only silence. He reminded himself that old houses made noises. Wood expanded, pipes shifted, wind moved loose boards. There had to be an explanation. Taking a deep breath, he climbed the stairs. One step, then another. The hallway stretched before him. 4 closed doors. At the very end, one door stood slightly open. Daniel slowly approached. His heartbeat quickened. He pushed the door open. The room was empty, except for a rocking chair, moving gently, back and forth, back and forth. The window was closed. There was no breeze. Daniel stared at the chair. His mind searched desperately for a logical explanation. Perhaps he'd moved the floorboards, perhaps vibration, anything. He stepped closer. The chair stopped. Instantly, complete silence returned. Daniel let out a nervous laugh. "You're imagining things." He turned to leave, then noticed something on the wall. A child's drawing, yellowed with age. It showed the house, a family standing outside, 2 parents, a little girl, and another figure standing in an upstairs window, watching them, drawn entirely in black. No face, just eyes. Daniel pulled the drawing from the wall. On the back, someone had written 4 words: "Don't open the cellar." His hands began to shake. At that exact moment, he heard the front door downstairs slowly close. The sound echoed through the house. The front door had closed slowly on its own. Daniel stood frozen at the end of the upstairs hallway. Every instinct told him to leave now. Yet another part of him needed to know who or what had closed that door. He hurried downstairs. The first floor was empty. No voices, no footsteps, no sign that anyone had entered. The front door was shut, locked. He checked the deadbolt, still engaged. His heartbeat slowed. "Old houses," he whispered to himself. "They make strange noises." But even as he said the words, he didn't believe them. He was about to leave when something caught his attention. Mud, fresh footprints, leading across the wooden floor. He frowned. He hadn't noticed them before. The prints began at the back hallway and disappeared near the kitchen, as if someone had walked into the house but never walked out. Daniel followed them carefully. Each footprint was clear, a man's shoe, large, heavy. The trail ended beside an old pantry door. Nothing else, no second trail, no explanation. He opened the pantry. Empty shelves, dust, spider webs, nothing more. Yet the footprints simply stopped. He stood there for a few long seconds, then forced himself to leave. That evening, he couldn't stop thinking about house number 9. He searched old newspaper archives at the town library. Most articles were ordinary: property sales, neighborhood events, community picnics, until he found a headline dated 17 years earlier. "Local family disappears without a trace." The article was surprisingly short. A couple, their 8-year-old daughter, gone overnight. Their car remained in the driveway. Dinner was still on the table. The television had been left on. Police found no evidence of violence, no signs of forced entry, no suspects, no answers. Daniel read the article twice, then a third time. At the bottom of the page, one sentence caught his attention. Authorities believe the family left voluntarily. He leaned back in his chair. It didn't make sense. People planning to leave voluntarily didn't abandon everything. The librarian approached quietly. "Researching the Harper family?" Daniel looked up. "You remember them?" The elderly woman nodded slowly. "Everyone remembers." "Were they nice people?" "They were wonderful." She smiled sadly. The little girl used to bring flowers to the library every Saturday. What happened? The woman's expression changed. No one knows. She glanced around before lowering her voice. But, what do you mean? The librarian leaned closer. 3 weeks before they disappeared, the father told the police someone had been watching the house every night. Daniel's smile faded. Did they catch anyone? No. They found footprints. He felt a chill. Footprints? She nodded. They led into the backyard, and then they disappeared. Exactly like the footprints inside the house. Daniel's stomach tightened. The next morning, he returned to house number 9. This time, he wasn't there for work. He needed answers. Rain clouds covered the sky once again. The neighborhood felt strangely empty. As he unlocked the front door, something was different. The house no longer smelled abandoned. Instead, there was the faint scent of fresh coffee. Daniel stopped breathing. Someone had been inside. He searched every room. Nothing. The kitchen was spotless, the living room unchanged. Then he noticed it. On the dining table, a white porcelain cup, steam still rising from the coffee. Someone had been there only moments earlier. "Hello?" His voice echoed through the empty house. Silence. Then a floorboard creaked upstairs. Daniel slowly looked toward the staircase. Every instinct told him to leave. Instead, he climbed, one careful step after another. The hallway was empty. The rocking chair hadn't moved. The child's drawing was gone. Only 4 small nail holes remained in the wall, as though it had never existed. Then he heard it, a little girl's laughter, soft, brief, coming from below. Daniel spun around and rushed downstairs. No one, only silence. But on the dining table, the coffee cup was gone. In its place lay a small brass key. Attached to it was a faded paper tag. Written in neat handwriting were 4 chilling words. "The cellar is waiting." Daniel's voice faded. The living room was completely silent. Only the ticking of the grandfather clock could be heard. Evelyn stared at him. "You actually went into the cellar?" Daniel nodded slowly. "I wish I hadn't." He rubbed his hands together. "I thought the key was someone's idea of a cruel joke, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I unlocked the door." The cellar staircase was narrow. Cold air drifted upward. The smell of damp stone filled the darkness. Daniel switched on his flashlight. Each step echoed beneath his feet. The walls were built from rough gray stone. At the bottom, he found an empty room, or at least it appeared empty. Old shelves, broken furniture, dust covering everything. He almost laughed at himself. Maybe the entire mystery had been nothing more than neighborhood folklore. Then his flashlight landed on something unusual. One section of the floor looked newer than the rest. The concrete was a different shade. Someone had repaired it recently. Curiosity overcame caution. Daniel searched the room until he found an old iron shovel leaning against the wall. He struck the concrete once, twice. On the third blow, the surface cracked. A hollow sound echoed beneath it. Something was underneath. Hours later, workers removed part of the concrete floor. Beneath it, they discovered a small metal box, no larger than a briefcase, locked. The police arrived within minutes. Daniel expected them to open it immediately. Instead, the senior detective picked it up, looked at the faded label attached to the handle, and his expression changed. Without saying a word, he ordered everyone out of the cellar, including Daniel. What was inside? Daniel had asked. The detective ignored him. The metal box was placed into an unmarked police vehicle and driven away. Daniel never saw it again. The next day, Daniel continued, I called the police station. They told me there had never been any box. Evelyn frowned. That's impossible. I thought so too, so I requested the official report. And? Daniel gave a bitter smile. The report said the inspection found nothing unusual. No cellar, no damaged floor, no metal box. It was as though the entire day had been erased. Evelyn struggled to understand. Why didn't you tell anyone? I tried. My supervisor warned me to forget everything. He said some questions only create more problems. A week later, the house was sold. Within 2 months, a new family moved in, and everyone acted as if nothing had ever happened. Daniel looked toward the envelope lying on the coffee table. I convinced myself it was over. I buried the memory. Until today. A knock at the front door interrupted the silence. 3 quiet knocks. Neither of them moved. Then 3 more. Daniel opened the door. No one. The porch was empty. Only the sound of leaves moving in the evening breeze. On the welcome mat lay another envelope. This one had no stamp, no address, only Daniel's name. Inside, there was a single photograph. It showed house number 9, taken only hours earlier. Someone had circled an upstairs window with a red marker. Standing behind the glass was a little girl looking directly at the camera. Daniel's hands began to tremble. That's impossible. Evelyn looked closer. What? He swallowed. The Harper family's daughter disappeared 15 years ago, and she looked exactly like this. Before either of them could speak, a car pulled into the driveway across the street. Vivian stepped out carrying groceries. She looked toward house number 9. For a brief moment, she frowned. She was certain someone had been standing at the upstairs window, watching her. She blinked. The figure disappeared. Across town, Emily unlocked her apartment door. Everything looked normal until she noticed the kitchen table. A dusty old key rested in the center. Attached to it, another paper tag. It read, "You were never supposed to survive." Emily stepped backward. Her phone rang. Unknown number. With trembling hands, she answered. There was no voice. Only the sound of a little girl humming the same melody that Daniel suddenly realized he heard in the cellar 15 years ago. The line went dead. That night, Asteria Lane looked as peaceful as ever. Porch lights glowed warmly. Families ate dinner. Children laughed in their backyards. No one would have guessed that an old secret had awakened, or that someone had begun watching the neighborhood again. And somewhere inside house number 9, the upstairs curtains moved, even though there was no wind.